roots of Christianity, because I thought this is what was missing from my previous experience of Christianity. I didn't know that this programming was actually Christian Zionist programming. So they used the fact that Jesus was a Jew to pull you into this idea that you need to support Israel. Because it's the land of the chosen people, it's the land that God gave the chosen people, and they must be supported in returning to this land and preparing the land for the Messiah to come. So I've always been someone who believed that I was put on this earth to fight for justice and for people who are oppressed. And I honestly believe that the Jewish people were oppressed. I believe that the ANC, who was anti-Israel, and the Palestinians and BDS were just trying to stand in the way of what God was trying to do in the Holy Land through the Jewish people. So I made contact with the Jewish Board of Deputies and the South African Zionist Federation, and they invited me to a couple of meetings, and I spoke at their May 2021 Guardians of the Wall operation at their office in Joburg. Then they hired me to be General Manager of South African Friends of Israel. Now, I think as a historian, it can attest to the fact that the narrative around Israel and Palestine is a very well-controlled and manufactured narrative. It's not something that you will hear in the news how dire the situation is for the Palestinians. You know, the South African media, I think, needs to do a much better job in telling the story of the Palestinian people. I don't think I've ever heard in the South African media about all the Palestinian children that are in jail right now in the Israeli prisons. So these narratives, because they don't go deep, they dumb down, they mute the atrocities that are happening to the Palestinians. So it's easy to ignore them, especially when you have this Zionistic propaganda telling you that these are the chosen people. They have to fulfill their mission. Christians have to support them. And on top of that, which is true, Christianity was the motivating factor behind the Holocaust and all the pogroms that the Jewish people used to suffer. But they don't tell you that it was in Muslim lands that Jewish people actually had sanctuary, because Islamophobia is one of the pillars of Christian Zionism and of Zionism in general. This is why they talk about the Judeo-Christian values that they share. And you've heard Blinken and Biden now saying shared values, shared values, shared values, civilization, you know. So this is the narrative that gets pushed. And as someone who grew up in quite a conservative household, you know, and I went to serious Western schools, I bought into this narrative. But when Netanyahu's new government was sworn in with Smotrich and Ben Gvir, I said to my colleagues, these people are unsupportable, you know. And it started off with the protests against the judicial reform. I was following that, and I started to see, okay, this is becoming a bit of a PR nightmare. Then they repealed the Disengagement Act, which then paved the way for them to return to certain settlements in the West Bank, which they had left as part of the Oslo Accords. So I tweeted that anyone who believes in the two-state solution should be up in arms as to what Israel is doing right now. And my boss at the South African Zionist Federation, Rowan Polovin, the chairman of Zionist Federation, sent me a WhatsApp saying, Pamela, this may be a valid personal opinion, but because you're the general manager of SAFI, people will think that this is the position of SAFI. I said to him, it should be essentially the position of SAFI, because the two-state solution is the only reason why South Africa and the African Union respect Israel as a partner diplomatically. So upon what basis do I lobby for Israel if there's no two-state solution? Then he said, we'll talk about it later, and we never did. Nonetheless, that was the beginning of the end of my job as South African Friends of Israel. Because after that, I said to them, oh, and I also said to him, as a black Christian woman, I have to have compassion for the Palestinian people, because they are directly now the target of the insanity that's gripping Israel. So I said to them after that, guys, we need to be credible as Christians who support Israel. Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. I said, we can't support this and be credible. So let's have dialogues for peace between us, Israel supporters, and the supporters of the Palestinian cause. They said, no, they're all a bunch of anti-Semites. We can't talk to them. They intimidate us. I said, no, we'll talk to them on your behalf. We're not scared of them. So, and I wish they were here to see how peaceful and chilled everyone is. So the narrative is shockingly skewed. And I think sometimes I think Hitler said, when you tell a lie, you have to tell such a big lie that people are overwhelmed by it. And this is the lie that's been told about the Muslim people, the Arab people, the people of Palestine. And on top of that, they don't even tell you that they are Christians in Palestine. But obviously anyone with a brain, which I clearly had left at the door in my job, would know that in the land where Jesus was, obviously there'd be Christians. Anyway, so I said, let's have dialogues for peace. They didn't want to do it, but I said, I'm going to do the research and write a proposal, and they're going to do this. So I started doing my research, but now I had to do real research. So when as a Christian Zionist, I used to do research, I would go to so-called objective Zionist sources for my understanding of the position of the Palestinian people. And it was always that, oh, if Mahmoud Abbas if Yasser Arafat and then now Mahmoud Abbas had just taken the money that they were given from the international community and built institutions of state, there'd be a state for the Palestinian people now. Settlements aren't a barrier to peace because the Jewish people, who are so peace-loving, would be quite happy to live in a Palestinian state because, why can't the Jews live wherever they want to live? Why should a Palestinian state be a Jewish free zone? We got out of Gaza, and look what we got in return. We left them greenhouses and all these nice things, and they destroyed them because they're savages, and they used water tanks to build missiles. And now they've deprived all their people from having a good life that they should have. So it's all the Palestinian leadership fault. Israel understands what the Palestinians need. And Danny Ayalon actually repeated this yesterday in an interview where he said, when the Gazan people have moved out of Gaza into the Sinai, they're going to set up a tent refugee camp for them because they know what the Palestinian people need and they have their best interest at heart. That's why they're asking them to leave, so that they can be protected from the ground operation. As if almost 3,000 people haven't already been slaughtered by the bombs. But of course, whatever they say is true. And this is how it works. Because of the shared values, anything that the West says, anything that the Zionists say, we're programmed to automatically believe that what they're saying is true. We don't ask questions. Look at this whole narrative of the 40 decapitated babies. Not even asked to fact check that. It was just accepted. But when Palestinians show pictures of their dead babies, it's like, oh, well, it's propaganda, and we know that Hamas uses their people as human shields anyway, so don't ask us to cry for them. And I actually had a conversation about a few days ago with a former high school friend, and I said to her, girl, are you crying for the people of Gaza the same way you're crying for the Israelis that were killed by Hamas? And she basically said Hamas are terrorists, and she repeated all the lies. So one thing which, though, goes into this, why are people so invested in the lies of Zionism? It's because there's multiple reasons, but one of them is they are benefiting materially from this. The Christian Zionists, they replace the gospel of Jesus, which says, blessed are the peacemakers, which says, love your neighbor as you love yourself, which says, honor God and love God and do what God requires of you, which is to love mercy and justice and peace. They replace all of that with the narrative and the gospel of, if you bless Israel, God will bless you. They base it on what God said to Abraham, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So now the gospel is, if we bless Israel, God will bless us. And they even seem to say your salvation is dependent on you loving Israel. Now, where do these blessings come from? They manufacture them. They use the money that American taxpayers give to Israel, which then is funneled through the Department of Strategic Affairs and then funneled to the Israel Center at Biachait in Johannesburg, and then funneled to the South African Zionist Federation, and then funneled into SAFI to manufacture blessings that come in the form of food parcels and educational opportunities and whatever else. So it's a narrative based on usurping the word of God and using it as a weapon against the Palestinian people. So I've been arguing with people ever since I took this stance that I'm going to speak out against Christian Zionism. And I tell them on Twitter, you're not a Jew. Moses would vomit if he knew that people like you were calling yourself Jews. Because why? This one guy, how dare you tell me about what it means to be a Jew? I said to him, Moses Maimonides said that if you're going to call yourself a Jew, you have to be able to identify with these two verses that God said to Jeremiah. God said, let the wise not boast in his wisdom, or the rich boast in his riches, or the strong boast in his strength. Let the one who wishes to boast only in this, that he knows me, that I display unfailing love, and I bring righteousness and justice into the world, and I delight in these things. I said to him, where is the peace, justice, and righteousness in what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people? Then he kept quiet. So they know that the truth is not their friend, and we just need to keep telling the truth. Like my brother said, it's for us that we are doing this, so that we don't lose our humanity and subject ourselves to them. But Sheikh Omar Suleiman delivered a very beautiful sermon about the Battle of the Trench, and he said, when you stand on the principles of righteousness, God is going to be on your side, inevitably. And Jesus said to the Pharisees, he said, who is it that does the will of God? Is it the one who says he's going to do the will of God but doesn't do it? Or is it the one who says he's not going to do the will of God and does it? There are many people who may not be religious, but when they stand with the Palestinians based on human dignity and righteousness, they are doing the will of God. And so I hope that through this process, we can also expose all these hypocrites who call themselves believers in God, when they stand on the side of injustice and pray for the IDF to succeed in its slaughter of the Palestinian people. In fact, Jesus also said, and I'm going to end with this, if you cause a child to lose faith in me because of what you do in my name, it'll be better for you for a millstone to be tied around your neck and for you to be thrown into the lake. Jesus was very clear that anyone who corrupts the faith of a child in him would rather have not been born. And imagine the little Palestinian children, if they had to know that in Jesus' name, people are praying for their slaughter. The children that were shot in the eye, which is a story that moved me personally, and I've repeated it a few times, of the little boy who told Dr. Nadera Shalub-Kevorkian about how he was shot in the eye. And when she asked him, where do we go to from here? He said, basically he told her he was running home because he was hungry, and that's why he was shot in the eye. So then he said, I have to stop being so hungry so that I'm not running home, so that I do not scare these Zionists into shooting me in the eye. The little children are being abused psychologically and physically in what is the Holy Land. So the crimes that are going on there are so multifaceted. And, I'm just glad that God opened my eyes for me to see that what I was supporting was genocide, was satanic, and that I am now able to also have the courage to stand here because I believe that the children of Palestine, out of all the people, are the ones that need to have their future secured in a free land where everyone can live in freedom and dignity. Thank you.